As you probably know from the title of this video, Prop 22 is passed. And for those of y'all that don't know what Prop 22 is, this is a bill in California that's kind of been proposed as an opposition to AB 5. Once again, AB 5 is a bill in California that's more or less forcing certain freelance work, but more specifically targeted towards the gig companies like Uber, Lyft, Postmates, etc., to classify their drivers as employees instead of independent contractors. Prop 22 was something that was put together by the companies, and they spent a large sum of money. I actually don't have the actual figure right here in front of me, but I'll go back and put the figure on the screen so you can see it. But they spent this much amount of money just to get this bill overturned to basically render AB 5 useless, because if it passes, that means the drivers will remain independent contractors. And it seems at this point it has actually passed, so drivers will not be employees in California. This sets a precedent in other states, basically saying that companies can do whatever they want if they have enough money, and they can overturn laws that favor them. Well, I'm here to tell you in this video why Prop 22, regardless of whatever else was going on, was going to pass anyway, and what you as a driver can do to ensure that you're taken care of in the future. So stay tuned. Hello everyone, this is Elijah with Financial Anatomy, the place where you can take control of your financial destiny. On this channel, we talk about personal finance, side hustles, and ways to make money online. And occasionally we actually do talk about these gig companies on this channel too, because I have another channel called The App Lifestyle, where I show people how to make money with these gig companies like Uber, Lyft, Postmates, DoorDash, etc. And in this video, we're going to be talking about why Prop 22 passed and what you need to do about this as a driver. Now you may be wondering, why is this video on this channel? Because it's more important that you hear this on this channel, because this channel focuses on financial education, and there's going to be a decent amount of it in here. So Prop 22 passed not so much because there's interruption with the coronavirus or all this other stuff. The reason it passed is because it not passing is actually against the flow of the times. Now, what do I mean by the flow of the times? Most people don't know this, but the creation of the employee is actually a fairly new phenomenon, and it's starting to get outdated as many people realize there are various ways of making money outside of traditional employment. The idea of employment is that you give your hard-earned sweat and effort to a company, and they're going to overall take care of you. And this comes in the form of three things, which we're going to be talking about in this video. It comes in the form of health insurance, it comes in the form of retirement, they're going to help you plan and pay for that, and it comes in the form of steady income. And all three of those things are now being switched to be in the power of the person, as opposed to just having to rely on a company to do it. And I personally think that's a beautiful thing. So what does this mean for drivers? Because I doubt this fight is necessarily going to end. There's still going to be opposition towards it. People want to make drivers employees. But according to what most drivers selected in California, they actually don't necessarily want to be employees. And that's because a large portion of them are part-time and some are full-time. And even some of the full-timers don't necessarily want to be employees because they love the flexibility aspect. Well, we're going to go into these three things that traditional employment by law more or less is giving you, and what you can do to make sure you have these ends covered. Because if these companies aren't going to do it for you, and by companies, I'm not just talking about the gig companies. All companies in general are moving away from the employment model because it's just simply too expensive. This is part of the reason that they're hiring overseas or switching to independent contracting models. But this should be welcomed and not feared. And as long as you take care of these three things, you're going to be okay. So let's go into those three things. The first part is steady income. This is probably the most appealing thing for a lot of people when it comes to jobs or traditional employment. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can reproduce steady income without a job, but you should probably be trying to move away from that mentality, because I'm never going to forget something that Robert Kiyosaki said in an interview with Eric Worre. He said that the paycheck is the most sinister thing that's ever been created on man. And by man, he's talking about men, women, humanity. And the reason being is it gets people addicted to just having a paycheck and not having to develop certain skills on how to make money. I'm not necessarily always talking about skills that'll be monetized. I'm talking about time management skills. The just trait of being ambitious, getting out there and making money, doing something, getting paid for it, and repeating that process. That concept scares the living daylights out of a lot of people because it's technically unsteady income, and when something's unsteady, it tends to bring a little insecurity out of you. So while you can find steady income outside of jobs, I'm not necessarily saying you should. You probably should be looking for unsteady income anyway. And while I'm not saying there are no opportunities for steady income outside of traditional employment, there are. It's just you should get more accustomed to doing more unsteady income because that's the way society is kind of pushing towards. That's the flow of the times. And the main way that you can make money outside of a job without starting a business, being an entrepreneur, I think that's not for everyone, and society's kind of hyping it up to try to push everyone in that direction. You don't necessarily need to do that because you can become a freelancer. A freelancer is someone who offers services for a fee. And this is the method that a lot of people are starting to gravitate towards because they don't have to be an entrepreneur, but they also don't have to go back to traditional employment. I kind of see it as a balanced hybrid between the two. This is what I recommend, and I do this because this was the process I went through. About 5 years ago, I started driving for Uber and Lyft, and then later Uber Eats. And I already knew it was going to be a temporary thing. I knew these companies could change things at any point, and that never really sat well with me. I'm not saying they should change their model. What I put my focus on instead was changing myself. So I developed the skills of being a freelancer. And when I did that, I was able to make money outside of Uber, Lyft, and Uber Eats. And I gradually started to phase that out of my ways of making money. It was this idea at being a freelancer that took me from being just an Uber or Uber Eats driver to eventually leaving that part of my life behind me if I so desire. I'm not gonna lie, I'll still get out there and drive for Uber Eats if I want to finish an audiobook or something, but by no means is it mandatory. Nowadays, I get paid for making money online. That comes from being a social media manager, video editing, and also designing websites. And these are skills that you can cultivate if you're willing to put in a little work initially just to learn them. And I've also mentioned in other videos that if I do someone's website, I tend to charge between $300 to $500. And that's not something that's unusual. That's actually a pretty common price once you develop the skill set. All you need to do is actually start on this platform. There are plenty of tutorials on how to design websites, and you don't even have to start with something complicated like a WordPress. You can start with something simple like Squarespace or Wix, learn how to design that, and build websites based on that software, which basically just has you rearranging things in templates. Pretty simple once you learn the skills. I've spoken about video editing numerous times on this channel, and if you want to know how I actually edit videos, you can check out my iMovie tutorial in the description, in the pinned comment, and also in the card right now. But you can also become a video editor. And for those of y'all that are kind of stuck on the idea of just it's got to be steady income, you can be on a retainer of a company as their video editor, and they send you work all throughout that month, and they pay you a flat fee. Whatever that flat fee is, you can negotiate. I don't recommend that you do it that way. I always recommend that you charge per project. That way you can get more projects in a month, and you're incentivized for becoming more efficient in your craft. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. And while I haven't personally done it, a lot of people make great money as a VA or virtual assistant for many companies. I also have a friend who's a tutor who has so many clients now, she has had to start turning people down because she just can't do them all. And this is also why she's studying to be a full-time nurse. So talk about setting up multiple streams of income. The same applies for using your fingers to make money. And for those of y'all that are getting some weird ideas in your head, no, that's not what I meant. We're talking about typing. We're talking about writing. It's not uncommon to make between $100 and $200 per article if you're a freelance writer. I've talked about this plenty of times on the channel, and the videos that I've talked about it in, I'll leave in the description. You could also take that writing ability and write your first book. And the means on how to actually go from a blank sheet of paper to a fully published book is actually available on the internet for free. Now, there are companies that'll pay you to kind of put the information in one spot and give it to you in the form of a system, but you actually could learn all that stuff for free. I mean, that's literally what I did. And that took me from just being an Uber Eats, and Lyft driver to being a best-selling author on my book, The Anatomy of Financial Success, The Key to Building Financial Confidence and Destroying Insecurity. And the subtitle has recently been renamed to The Key to Building Financial Confidence and Destroying Your Insecurities About Money. And for those of y'all that are thinking, you've named a bunch of stuff with technology, I don't like technology, I'm not good with technology, just start thinking outside the box. What are some ways that you can make money outside of technology? Are you very athletic? Do you mind cutting people's lawns for a fee? That's always going to be an industry that's not going anywhere because there's plenty of work for everyone. That's something to maybe consider. I bring all this up because this stemmed from me being an Uber, Lyft, and Uber Eats driver and having the free time to actually pursue these other things and build skill sets. And this is something that most Uber and Lyft drivers have at their disposal. So use that time in abundance to make the changes in your life to you so you can make money in other ways. Instead of trying to force these companies to change, because it's likely not going to happen. And even if they do, it's just simply going against the flow of the times. These debates as far as employees and contractors will keep popping up, and people are going to start demanding that they go towards the contractor route. You don't want to be left behind, so to speak. So it's better to change yourself as opposed to trying to change everything else. The second thing that most people find very valuable about a job is they're going to help you plan for retirement, usually in the form of a 401k or a Roth 401k. Now, there used to be a lot of things that were appealing in terms of doing this and having them do this for you, but most of it's outdated now. One of the most appealing things was it was actually a little expensive to do investing on your own. You have to invest only a certain amount of money, otherwise you'll get hit with trader fees. In some cases with these brokerages, you couldn't invest at all unless you had a certain amount of money. But nowadays there are brokerages like Robinhood, M1 Finance, and Webull that offer the ability to make retirement accounts. So the main appeal of having a company do that part for you has kind of been taken away because you have the freedom to do it yourself. This comes down to actually doing it yourself. The main advantage that a company is going to offer is if they have a 401k or a Roth 401k you can set up, they'll match your contributions up to a certain limit. And just being honest, that's free money, so why not take it? But at the same time, that should just be seen as a bonus. By no means do they have to do that, and a lot of companies are starting not to. So you might as well just plan for that not to happen, and you can take the concept of investing in your future for retirement in your own hands. Now, I've made several videos on the differences in retirement accounts and which one is best for you, so you can check those out in the link in the description or in the card right now. But I'll say that for Uber and Lyft drivers or people in the gig economy in general, a lot of y'all are really sleeping on this retirement account, and that's a SEP IRA. Not going to go into the details of it because I made a video on that, and I'm also getting ready to make a video on if you're self-employed and you make over $200,000 a year, you shouldn't be paying any taxes. We'll save that for that video. As far as what you want to invest in, obviously this isn't financial advice, for entertainment purposes only. With that disclaimer out of the way, most of these companies and these 401ks just put your money in your contributions in mutual funds. And most people don't actually know where they're going. Some people do. I mean, the information is made available, but some of those funds are investing in industries that are becoming obsolete. But one sure thing that you could do is just use the method I've talked about in my How Rideshare Drivers Can Get Ahead video, where you basically invest in the total stock market, the total bond market, the international stock market, and the S&P 500 ETF. By doing that, you're basically investing in the whole market. So as it goes up and down, you're invested in the whole market. But studies show on average that usually the return is 8% over a course of years. So you can just put that in your retirement account, whatever you choose it to be, but let's just say it's a SEP IRA, and just make regular contributions to it like you would do at a job. And this can easily be set up with M1 Finance. You can just set up a weekly withdrawal to pull money out of your account and go into your M1 Finance portfolio, which you could go ahead and do that 4-fund portfolio I talked about, but they also have pre-built portfolios if you want to dabble along with in other things. So it's basically the same concept. Your 401 contributions are taken out of your paycheck before you even see them and just invest it into the account, right? Well, you can set up the same thing with weekly withdrawals into your M1 Finance portfolio. I'll leave links to M1 Finance, Webull, and Robinhood in the description below. So if you're looking at doing that, you can get 10 extra bucks for free in your account just by using that link. And with Webull, you'll get 2 stocks in random companies between $2 and $1,400. Keep in mind that the type of stocks that you can get is kind of varying based on how Webull has it set up. Sometimes those amounts that I just said go up or they may go down a little, but the basic consensus is you're gonna get 2 free stocks. Moving on to the third thing that most people look when it comes to jobs and traditional employment is health insurance. And this is the one area where they'll pay a portion of it, if not all of it. And that's just a good perk to have. Like I said though, if companies are moving away from the employment model, you need to consider a scenario where that's not gonna happen. That means that you need to go ahead and price how much would health insurance be for you if your job wasn't in the picture. For Uber and Lyft drivers who drive full time, it's not in the picture anyway, but that doesn't mean you should just neglect looking into it. There's a great company called Stride that will actually do some of the handwork for you as far as finding what's a good health insurance provider based on what information you give them. Like, are you single, or how much do you make, all that good stuff. So I'm going to leave a link to them in the description below. But you need to know exactly how much it's going to cost, because a lot of us don't want to look into this administrative stuff because we just kind of want to brush it off, pretend like it doesn't exist. But these are real things to really consider, and you need to take a look at a scenario where if a job went in the picture, how can you afford to have the health insurance if it's that important in your life? And just riding off of that, health insurance tends to go up when there are problems with yourself and medical bills start coming in. So it definitely couldn't hurt to just take better care of yourself, when 90% of diseases are what's known as chronic diseases, meaning they can be reversed with dietary changes and exercise. So why not just do those things starting out? Get enough exercise, clean up your diet, make sure you're drinking plenty of water, the essential things you need to maintain yourself, and then your health insurance won't go up because random things happen and they end up paying out of pocket, which causes your premiums to go up. And with all that being said, we've covered exactly why Prop 22 passed and why, more or less, regardless of if this fight continues, it's really going against the flow of the time. So you need to go ahead and adapt and consider a world where employment isn't really a thing. That's the direction that society is heading overall. This employment model stuff is just becoming too expensive for companies, and they see the tide of the times too, because a lot of people are really opting out for, hey, I want to be able to work for multiple people to have multiple streams of income. I don't want to just be tied to you where I'm basically your servant. A lot of people are really starting to think that way. So independent contracting models are really coming as the way of the future. That goes for gig workers as well as just people in general. You really need to think about that. And these are the 3 things that you need to focus on implementing that jobs are really doing for you anyway. If you get to handle those 3 things, then the value of a job really decreases and you don't really need it. If you can handle those 3 things and get them taken care of, you're gonna feel a heavy burden lifted off of you, because that's basically what the job was providing. If they don't provide that, then guess what? You know how to do it yourself. And as I say in my book, Destroying Your Insecurities About Money, that's gonna play a big role in that happening. That does it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, where we talk about topics like this, personal finance, side hustles, and ways to make money all the time. And give the video a like if you found value in it. I'll catch you in the next video. Don't forget to get out there and take control of your financial destiny.